They have stand-up rows. That's what I've heard over the years. But some of those relationships, they kind of thrive on that kind of argumentative, jeopardy. Is it over? Is it not
Yeah.
over?
There's like a toxicity.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's what I think. Harry's stuck in a sort of toxic mess with Meghan.
Charlotte Griffiths, it's astonishing to me that Meghan Markle used the court case loss for Prince Harry to send out another email for Was Never. That's what Lady Colin Campbell calls her failing lifestyle brand. And I just was like, are you serious? Like, there's nothing sweet about this season for your family. And there does seem to be quite a dramatic unraveling of this business. I mean, Nancy Sidley posted, I think we can officially call it, as ever, the time of death, July the 4th, 2026. And what she did, you see, was compare what was quite a sort of plush Independence Day type launch in 2025 compared to this sort of pitiful looking piece of sourdough in 2026. I don't know about you, Charlotte. I don't even want to eat that, like, seriously. And so this business seems to be in a great deal of trouble. Do you think that is why she has been at least open to the idea of some type of reconciliation with the British royal family?
Oh, I think so. I think she's well aware that the currency remains in some sort of association with the British royal family, with Diana. I do think she's coming to Althorpe during this trip. And I have to say, I'm pretty skeptical about the reasons why. Of course, she wants to remember Harry's mother, but if she can't get to the royal family, it feels like she wants to get at least to the Spencers and Diana's sisters and, be seen maybe going in and out of Althorpe, or be able to report that she has done. Because that's the closest she can get to any kind of currency. And, she spent her currency over in the States. And we all know that she's got this warehouse full of jam that's about to go off. And I think she must have pre-scheduled all these emails. I get them. I got my one yesterday. I couldn't believe I was reading about jam yesterday when Harry was in such a pickle. Maybe we'll get a pickle email next time. But no, I absolutely agree with you there, Dan. That's clearly what's going on.
Yeah, because do you remember, Charlotte, she told Omid Scobie, that little propagandist, during the last official engagement at Buckingham Palace, that she would not return to England. Now, of course, she did so for the late Queen Elizabeth's funeral, but I guess in many ways that was unavoidable. My belief is that she had no plans to return, but something changed. And Charlotte, you were at the forefront of this very controversial meeting between my former boss, at least. I don't know if he was ever your boss, Charlotte, Tobin Andre, who is now the Director of Communications for King Charles, and Meghan's then team, although one of them is still with her. And Charlotte, you did cop a lot of criticism over that period because people were confused. Like, Harry is suing you. He is dragging your ass to court, Charlotte. He wants to destroy you. He wants you out of the Mail. And a lot of people were saying, including on this show, why are you giving him the airtime? Like, why are you quoting his friends and almost trying to lay the groundwork for him to return? Do you cop that criticism, or are you like, nope, it was a story, and a story is a story, and I was always going to break it?
I'm afraid it's the second one. You must be able to imagine, Dan, when a story like that drops in your lap, what are you going to do? Not run the story? We're a tabloid newspaper. I was nominated for Scoop of the Year for that story. A story is a story. And yes, I did dabble in Project Thor for a while. And then I passed the baton on to all the rest of Fleet Street because I realised it was the briefings and counter briefings. It all got very messy. But
But you think it's on? You think it is happening? There is some type of establishment push to find a way for Prince Harry to return, not necessarily full-time, but in some type of role. I mean, we've even seen Boris Johnson pushing for it in the pages of the Daily Mail.
For a time last summer, I did think Project Thor is on. And then I was sort of proved right, because he did turn up at Clarence House. And then I've begun to think it's not going to happen, especially after the Buckingham Palace debacle. And now he's come out and been incredibly rude about Justice Nicklin. Well, how can he ever be a working member of the royal family or go to a royal event now? It's the King's Court he's talking about there. So I think if Project Thor was on, and maybe it was on for a very brief moment in time, and it probably shouldn't have been, but I was just reporting that there was something going on, rumbling underneath the surface. I think it's
so why but Charlotte, a lot of your reporting over that time, because we covered it in detail, was coming from Harry's friends, especially his smaller group. Let's be honest, a lot of them have walked away, but especially his smaller group of friends in the United Kingdom. Why do you think they were speaking to you? Because that's what was so interesting to me. Like, Harry's getting you in court, but then his friends are briefing you this information. Like, was he trying to play some type of game? Do you think Harry was aware that his friends were giving you these stories?
I think it was as well thought through as that, quite honestly. Nothing ever is with Harry, but I suppose, as you know, I've got great Harry sources, always have done. going back as far as 2011.
Yeah.
So, naturally, information like that is quite likely to come to me. And it did in the first instance. And, I was proved right when it turns out he did have that meeting on that balcony. Yeah, why did he choose me given that we were going to court? I just don't think it had been thought through. Anyway, who was I to argue? I had a story, and that's what mattered.
What do you think the state of the marriage with Meghan Markle is?
I do wonder, since she didn't turn up at Chatham House with him yesterday, how good it can possibly be. If I was him, I'd be pretty angry with her for abandoning me in my time of need. I wouldn't expect that of my husband. I can't believe Meghan did that to him, really. So yeah, I have to wonder. I think when we'll find out is at the Invictus Games event later in the week, whether they're holding hands and doing their usual routine of kind of being arm in arm at every moment. I think, in honesty, it peaks and troughs. I suppose like a lot of marriages, but in theirs, the peaks must be very high and the lows must be very low.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure they have stand-up rows. That's what I've heard over the years. But some of those relationships, they kind of thrive on that kind of argumentative, jeopardy. Is it over? Is it not over?
Yeah. There's like a toxicity.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's what I think Harry's stuck in, a sort of toxic mess with Meghan.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And Charlotte, of course, you do also have supreme contacts in other parts of the royal family, especially amongst the young royals, William and Catherine, and particularly the princesses, Beatrice and Eugenie. How is the rest of the family feeling at this point? Do you agree that William and Catherine in particular just view this now as a sideshow and wish that King Charles would be a little bit tougher and put it to an end?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I have heard of tensions. A lot of people deny this, but I've heard of tensions between Charles and William. And
Big time.
Yeah, big time. But then some people come out and say Charlotte Griffiths is absolutely wrong. But I just hear it time and time again from excellent sources, and not just the young, but actually older members of the royal circle, concerned kind of elders, as it were, have said that there's tensions between them. And, it makes me very sad, because I'm sure the tension must be William wanting to cut off certain members of the family and move on, because he's got to inherit this family and this firm. And so does his son, George. And he may well be feeling extremely protective of George. He's about to start Eton. When he leaves Eton, he'll start being a proper working royal, and then he'll one day inherit the throne. And the last thing you want is this Harry and Meghan sideshow, not to mention Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew. And I'm sure that must be a source of great frustration between him and Charles. And how sad, really, that Harry has come between these two great men, the former Prince of Wales and the current Prince of Wales. They should be going through an amazing sort of handover process now, kind of, father and son teaching each other. But that's not the case, I don't think. And I think it's because of these wayward members of the family.
And what about Beatrice and Eugenie? Because for a long time, and I mean, you have really been at the forefront of reporting on how difficult life has been for these two women over the past decade. Now, we may differ as to whether there should be much sympathy towards the two of them. I mean, I think I'm probably in the more of the harsh camp, given that they did agree to meet Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted child sex offender, after his release from jail, when they were actually young women, yeah, but not like, we're not talking teenagers, or at least, they were in their early 20s, I think. And, so I guess I'm more in the Prince William camp, which is that, unfortunately, they have to pay a little bit for not just the behaviour of the parents, but the fact that they got wrapped up in it. But of course, there has been this interesting dynamic in terms of Eugenie in particular seeming to side with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and that causing tension with Prince William, who, again, doesn't think that Eugenie and Beatrice should have such a prominent role, in comparison with King Charles and Princess Anne, who are very much on the forgiveness train. And we saw that, didn't we, at Peter Phillips's wedding, where they did show up and William did have to give that kiss to Beatrice. So where do you think the two sisters stand at the moment? Are they, especially Eugenie, still very much team Harry and Meghan?
I don't think Beatrice is. It's so complicated, isn't it? Because Beatrice is friends with Piers Morgan and is desperate to be on Team Royal, and is the one out of the two of them that's always wanted to be a working royal more than Eugenie. But yet, I think Beatrice cops a little bit more of the flack for the Epstein Association, because she is that little bit older, but also she accepted the necklaces, the 18th birthday parties. She was the one that walked her father into Newsnight, told him how marvellous he was. So I think I think that's a really tricky one. And I was really surprised, actually, that William gave her that kiss outside the royal wedding. And then with Princess Eugenie, well, I'm hearing, I don't know about you, that Meghan is currently in Portugal with the kids while Harry's in London on his own. And I find that very interesting because it must mean that they're somewhere near Princess Eugenie's husband's business. He runs this kind of villa company over there. And the rumour has always been on Fleet Street that the house that Meghan and Harry reportedly own in Portugal was somehow arranged by Jack Brooks Bank. And I do also, when Eugenie found out she was pregnant, and then the king later found out, and Eugenie got a letter from the king. Apparently Eugenie was really surprised about that, because I'm guessing she's thinking, well, I'm sort of on team Sussex, so I'm amazed that I heard from the king and that I'm being welcomed by the royal family. Then at Christmas, I very much noticed this kind of Prince William scarfing moment when he appeared to ignore her, and she kept looking back towards him, and he kept looking down at his scarf, what's his scarf or his tie. So I do think there's a bit of a coldness there, and I do think maybe Eugenie is on team Sussex.
And some of your reporting, Charlotte, especially about Beatrice at the moment, even though, as I say, I've been a little bit tough at times, it has made me really sad. Like, you've reported in quite a lot of detail about her marriage and how things are, shall we say, stressed. I mean, Edo even, well, fascinated to know how it happened, but he provided you with a statement almost trying to defend his behavior and the fact that he spent all of this time overseas. But Beatrice has really been struggling, and all of her friends are saying that. And it's probably not a surprise, because she obviously has to question, well, am I going to cut off my own children from seeing their grandfather, because she got in so much trouble when she was pictured with her child horse riding with Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor. But talk to me about that marriage and what's really going on, and how you got that explosive statement from Edo, Beatrice's husband, shall we say, pushing back at some of your reporting.
I feel really sorry for Beatrice, because Edo, again, in her time of need in January, mid-Epstein drama, he went off to America, I think for 2 or 3 weeks in total, posted loads of pictures, completely oblivious to the fact that, of course, the world would be looking at these pictures of him having a carefree time. He was having a glass of rosé with his colleague. He was taking lovely strolls around in Florida. And all the while, Beatrice was right in the absolute thick of it with the Epstein drama in January. So I feel really sorry for her, but it still had to be pointed out, what is going on? Why did Edo do this? And Edo said that, he said pretty much he's got to be the leader of his family now. There won't be any other money coming in. He almost acknowledged, really, reading between the lines, that the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor drama meant that he was going to have to bring home the bacon from now on. And so he was concentrating on his business. But I do hear these persistent rumours that Beatrice finds Edo a little bit difficult to manage sometimes. A lot of their friends say things like, oh, he's Italian. And it was so interesting how many different sources I had that weren't necessarily linked to one another, that all said, oh, Edo, he's Italian. So I don't know really what's going on there, but it feels to me like he's being very headstrong and going off a little bit and doing his own thing. And of course, I think Beatrice really wants to make that marriage work. And they went to Saint-Tropez together to a party with Piers Morgan last month. I thought it was very interesting that there was one day that Edo went out and Beatrice didn't go out during that Saint-Tropez trip. I found it fascinating they even went to Saint-Tropez because, of course, there's a lot of attention on the Yorks and how flashy they are. And I would have thought, from a PR perspective, an optics perspective, it was a really bad time to go to Saint-Tropez because it's the flashiest place. They went to the flashiest restaurant, Cinq on Cinq. But I think Beatrice is working very hard to keep that marriage together. I think Edo's possibly quite angry with his father-in-law and the situation, and has been worrying a little bit about his business Banda, because Banda, which is a ultra luxury property design company, relies on having very wealthy, ultra high net worth clients, and they prize secrecy above all. These are the people that when they sell their house, they don't put listings on Rightmove. They do it all behind closed doors, off-market sales. So the last thing you want is this very, very famous family, for all the wrong reasons, to be associated with your brand. So I think a lot of it was about trying to separate himself off and Banda off from the rest of the family. But it's a bit difficult when you've got your wife in the middle, the link between.
Yeah, and what I thought was so interesting about your reporting is that, of course, he used that relationship to help launch the business, didn't he? When it was helpful for him to sort of be royal adjacent and connected to Andrew and Fergie, he used it. And again, you might say, well, that's just a practical reality. But of course, it becomes much, much harder when you're then trying to reverse it. And Charlotte, amidst all of this, of course, it's interesting that we're not talking that much about William and Catherine, but I feel like they have had an absolutely triumphant couple of weeks, because through all of the noise, right, of Harry and Buckingham Palace and then the court case. I mean, can you just imagine, by the way, when the verdict came through, like William would have been spitting tax because, of course, he was always like, this is insane. Why are you going to war with the press? Like, it's not like William is the biggest fan of newspapers, but he has worked out that it is absolutely critical to have a positive and modern relationship. But that also doesn't mean that he gives newspapers every part of his life. But I do feel like we saw such a contrast, Charlotte, in a couple of the imagery, because you've got those beautiful photos being released of Catherine and the children and the Middleton family during the Three Peaks Challenge at the exact moment where Harry has never felt more isolated. And I'm not saying for a single second that that was like planned, timed for that moment. It's like Catherine had a rollout of how she was going to release the Three Peaks Challenge because, of course, she wants maximum fundraising, doesn't she, for the Royal Marsden? But I just feel like it was such a contrast. And then, of course, we saw her this week at the Evelina Children's Hospital. And again, there were such beautiful moments within that. And it was when Harry's car crash return was happening. So do you think the plan for William and Catherine is literally just to push on and just ignore it all?
I think it's keep calm and carry on. And the best thing Catherine can do is just be herself, because every time she's herself, brave, doing the Three Peaks Challenge, warm, look at this lovely picture of her now. It's just such a contrast to Harry and Meghan. And I always remember that time, I think it's in the Netflix documentary, where Meghan is trying to go down a hill on a trek in California, and it's not a very steep hill, and she has to like lie down and go down.
I played it. It was cruel, but I had to.
And, you know, by contrast, Catherine's there, she's just recovered from cancer. She's done a Three Peaks Challenge, and she's not trying to look all beautiful and elegant and stylish. She's got her kind of rain mac on and her kind of ski poles. And actually, although I have to say, afterwards, when she arrived and she was greeted by the Middletons and she was wearing those red shorts, I thought she looked incredible and very sexy. And you're so right, that thing of having William's in-laws all around him, that lovely, warm Middleton family. Harry doesn't have really any in-laws. Of course, he's got Doria, who I know is a huge rock to them. But as we all know, there aren't any other in-laws. And I don't think it's contrived. I don't think Catherine's thinking, oh, I'll go up this big hill because Meghan can't go down a very shallow ravine. I think that, I just think their strategy is be yourself, keep calm, carry on. It's what we all do in England, especially the royals. And when Catherine is herself, it glows.
Charlotte, where to for you now, personally? Because what's so interesting about this case, and obviously you never wanted it, but you have become more famous than you ever have been as a journalist. You've obviously always been a successful journalist and very well known in Fleet Street, but you've now been propelled to another level of fame and defeated Harry. You know, Harry thought he was going to defeat you, be the Dragon Slayer. And now you and Katie Nicholl and Rebecca English proved him wrong. Do you intend to stay reporting on the royal beat? Are you going to write a book about your experience? What's your thinking?
Well, I think I will stay on the royal beat. I love writing about the royals. I love the royal family. So I think I will do that. In the short term, I just really want to see my kids because I haven't seen them for weeks. Well, no, I really literally haven't seen them for a week. But all throughout the trial, there were huge moments of time where I just didn't see them. They live 3 hours away from London. So I'm going to really try and like hunker down and spend my summer with them and then try and resume business as usual. But in terms of reporting on Harry, I think my life's going to be made very difficult because, of course, I'm going to be persona non grata in the WhatsApp group that Liam Maguire runs. But
have they tried to cut you out, Charlotte?
Well, I've never been asked to join this famous WhatsApp group, but there was the letter put out pointing out exactly where Harry's going to be for the next 2 weeks. Obviously, I wasn't given that, the op note. So I'll expect some more petty moments like that. I'd really like to try and be elegant about it if I can, and just they go low, I go high. I mean, I might have to stick the boot in a little bit in my Daily Mail piece tomorrow, but essentially,
I'm excited to read that.
But I'm not trying to be vindictive. I really do want to make the point tomorrow, and as I'm doing on your show, that these messages, I don't want to betray my friends and my private social circle. The messages had to come out because I was accused of phone hacking, and prove my innocence. But
and look, you can't underestimate what he actually wanted, because yes, he wanted to finish off your career, but remember, just like Piers Morgan, he uses the civil courts to then try and force police action too. And it was very interesting to me seeing Camilla Tominay of the Daily Telegraph today say, actually, this case really matters for the public, because what Prince Harry was actually trying to do was so much bigger than the Daily Mail. He was actually trying to shut down proper, genuine reporting of public figures, of politicians. He wanted to bring in this Leveson too, the whole Hugh Grant bid to control the police because he was caught with his pants down with a prostitute in the 90s. That's what this was about. So it was actually, in some ways, so much bigger than Prince Harry.
Yeah, and I think what Harry underestimates, because he doesn't understand the nuances of journalism, which, by the way, is bizarre because journalism is essential to his life as it is to mine, and always has been, and for his mother and his family. Doesn't understand that at the Daily Mail, we are highly trained and we truly believe in holding power to account and to getting to the bottom of injustices and shining a light on them for good. You know, it's not all just negative private life. You know, it's we're trying to do a job that's important for the world in a way.
And Charlotte, obviously Paul Dacre's statement, we played it in full on the show yesterday, but it was quite something. Have the Daily Mail supported you throughout this process? Do you feel like they were standing by you and that win or lose, you were going to remain valued within the Daily Mail organisation?
Yeah, absolutely. That was made so clear. I mean, there's such camaraderie with the journalists here because we've all come through, like you, Dan. We did the hard graft. We worked so hard in our 20s, you know, as well as going to all these parties. I was also turning up for work on time all day, every day, unlike all these aristos, doing my job and learning the trade and cutting my teeth. And we're all the same here. We're all highly trained journalists. We really want to do accurate, good, poignant journalism. And we're not sloppy. And so, and you just know that Paul Dacre believes that, and everyone here believes that. So we felt really well supported throughout the case. And I have to say, they have been amazing. And so that's why yesterday was a good day. You know, there wasn't actually champagne flowing, but there were a lot of hugs. And everyone was just so relieved that we could all get on with our lives again.
Well, you deserve some champagne this weekend, but maybe with your husband, Charlotte, because I'm sure he's had to put up with a lot as well, because it's obviously always the partners who cop it, isn't it, during these very, very, very stressful things. And honestly, going through a court case that you do not want to go through, that you are being dragged into, that has huge consequences for your reputation and your life, all I can say is that I understand what that feels like. It's absolutely awful. Luckily, I guess, because you're at the Daily Mail, they were financially supporting you. So at least you didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my house or be made bankrupt. But of course, the consequences could have still been very, very grave. So congratulations again. Total vindication. And it's been so good having spoken about you for so long on this show, Charlotte, for people to actually be able to hear from you about what really happened. So I really do appreciate it.
Thanks.
This video is for news reporting, commentary, and educational purposes. The views expressed are based on publicly available information and personal analysis. We strive for accuracy but encourage viewers to verify information through official sources.